Welcome to the Range Podcast. I'm Ricky Brule, and with me is Jake Hollywood Iverson. Join us at the Archery range, where we'll tell stories from the hunt, discuss technical bow shooting tactics and gear, and pick the brains of some of the most successful people to ever shoot a bow. Whether you're about to shoot that X for the win or send an arrow at a trophy buck, this podcast is for you. The Range Podcast is brought to you by Vapor Trail Archery, makers of the best bowstrings money can buy, originators of limb-driven arrow rest technology, and innovators of Stokerized stabilizer systems. Welcome to The Range, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Brule, and today I've got an amazing individual on the podcast today. We were acquainted through podcasting, and he's also part of the Sportsman's Empire Network. The podcast is called Antler Up. His name is Jeremy Dinsmore. Welcome to the range, buddy. How are you?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on. It's when you say the range, and I'm like, man, I want to go to the range right now.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go shoot. It wants me to go shoot my bow. Obviously, it wants me to just take my daughter there, go do some fun stuff. So it's like the heat wave finally broke here in Pennsylvania. The last 2 days, it's been like 99. It's been absolutely miserable. Today's like nice and 82 degrees. So I'm like, you know what?
There you go.
It might be a range day later.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've been getting out shooting a lot more. Now that so we actually recorded an episode previously for the Antler Up podcast as well, and we talked about this a little bit, but I drew my North Dakota tag, so I'm pretty excited about that. Been shooting my bow a ton. We've got the new product, the new Victor, so we've been putting that through its paces. But let's give Jeremy was on the podcast. Well, I think it's your second time now, right?
Yep.
Or this would be your third time?
Second or third time, I can't remember.
Because I feel like I've done an episode with you every year. I can't remember now. We're over 100 episodes. So, and you've got to be what episode are you on to the Antler Up right now?
I'm closing in on 300. Closing
Wow.
in on 300. Yeah.
Man.
It's
awesome.
crazy.
It's a huge accomplishment because I remember when I first got into this, I saw like the average podcast dies at like 7. Or maybe not the average, but a majority of them, And so, and even to get like past a certain number, like having 300 episodes puts you in a very small percentage of podcasts that have started up. And so that's great. It is. It's a grind. I don't know if people realize that it's actually a lot more work than you would think. And so just showing up every week and, but every time you have that conversation, right, you're just like, oh man, that went really well, you know, and you're just like, I'm excited for the next one, especially when it's with somebody that you have similar interests. And of course, you were talking about being at the range. And so then it started making me think, I'm like, man, you know what? I need to get some mini mics. So then we can do these remote conversations, but then in between we can go, rip 3 arrows real quick and then have a conversation while we walk down to pull,
There you go. That's exactly where, if this role was reversed, it's exactly where my brain would be too. I love it. Thinking of like, okay, what can we do next? And then it's all right, back to the conversation, man. I love it. That's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, I think I was starting to allude to this, but my ADHD took me off track. And so, Tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself and then your origin story, like what got you into hunting and then eventually picking up a bow.
Yeah, man. So grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, a town called Hazleton. High school was huge and everything like that, and had everything. You had the little city, and on the outside you have the farm country and suburbs, all that type of stuff. And grew up hunting with my dad. I mean, from a very young age. Always could not wait until I was 12 years old just to finally get my hunting license here in the state of PA. And when that day came, it was like the passing of the torch, right? I already had a bow by that point in time. I knew from the very beginning I always wanted to do archery. The reason why was because my parents were divorced, and when it was my weekend with my dad, when he would take me home, there was a little old taxidermy bow shop. So in the back room was his taxidermy office, and then in the front room he had a bow shop, and he'd have Hoyts, he had Matthews, and I just remember that old Apple Hoyt logo, and I was like, man, one day right? Like one day I'm going to have one of those. And my dad ended up getting me, I think it was a Martin. I can't remember, but it was a bow that would grow with me. And I was so excited. And just when I got to the legal poundage, I think I was 12 or 13. I think it was 13. And finally went in the backyard with my dad at his property, and I stuck my first whitetail with an arrow. And prior to that, when I was 12, I killed my first deer with a rifle, like a little 5-6 point buck, and a doe too that year. But then the next year was my first archery buck. And Ricky, that is still to this day, man, that nothing beats releasing an arrow and harvesting an animal. And the legs I couldn't feel my legs at that point in time. And real funny, quick story. When I drew back, I shot at this doe. I totally missed her, and she was like feeding, and she like bounded. I'm like, what the heck was that? And still to this day, I don't know how I was able to knock another arrow. And I knocked another arrow, and I took my time. I think I did, probably not. I probably instinctive shot, and I made a great shot, surprisingly, on that second shot, and she went down in person. And at that point in time, I'm in the backyard. I could see my dad's house basically from afar, and I'm yelling, Dad, I got one. And he came out, and we recovered it, and it was a cool moment. But ever since then, man, I was hooked, and archery held a special place in my heart, and hunted up until college, basically. Rifle season then pretty much took over just because of sports and everything along those lines. And then kind of a hiatus a little bit just because of after graduation from college, getting my roots down, like with my wife and everything along those lines. And financially it was like, okay, I can't afford a bow. And my dad was always the guy that was like, when I got to upgrade my Matthews, I'll get you one. And that day never came until like 6 years ago when I was able to afford my own bow, basically, by that point in time. So finally then when I did, I was like, dude, you got to get a new bow. Like, you never swapped the strings out of that thing. Like, what are you doing? So about 6-7 years ago, I had this idea of wanting to, at the time I was watching like YouTube and things like that. And you'd see like the Hush guys. And I've always like been a person where if, I like this mug, for example, is this a good mug? Or like, I'd look it up and I'd watch somebody review it. And, so I was like, I could do that. I could speak. I like people. I'm going to, I like talking in front of a camera, and kind of started the whole hunting thing with my wife's cousin at the time. And we did it. That winter, we were like, hey, let's start a podcast. Or like that fall, I was like, let's start it once the new year hits, like 2020, we'll roll out our first episode. And we did. And then a couple weeks later, like COVID hit, and I didn't have to go back to teaching. And I was like, dude, this is a like blessing in disguise. I have all day to like hit podcasts. So the podcast has been running now for over 5 years, and the videos hitting, here and there have come out for the last, I guess, 6 years coming up too. So yeah, man, it's been really cool. I've met a lot of really neat individuals. Someone like yourself, like the way we've originally got contacted, you were saying too about like the podcast. I don't even remember but like Sean from Stokerized, like originally when, he was the one that put us in contact, like through email, and we talked on the phone and just kept in touch. And I don't know, I always got a really good vibe out of you. And I was like, cool dude. Like, I'll stay in touch with him. I'll help him out with anything if he ever needs my help, basically. And so we've always kept in touch and hit it off from there, man. So it's always just then you had it was neat because then you had to ask me about like podcast information. I was like, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like someone that's been doing the hunting thing for a very long time is asking me, some pointers or like more about the podcast stuff. So I felt very honored and to help you in that world. So yeah, man, that's me in a nutshell, like growing up and getting into it, and just reside in central Pennsylvania now with my wife and 2 daughters, and one's 11. One is a 1.5-year-old absolute terror. So big age gap. Didn't know it was going to happen, but man, that second one, she is total second child, like to the T.
That's awesome, man. And thanks for the kind words. Also, when it comes to like the podcasting stuff too, I talk about this a lot. You're responsible for this kind of newfound addiction that I have. I don't know if I'd say it's an addiction, but I get so much from it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like mentally, and just, it's hard to find community when you have a family and kids, and so this gives an excuse to like get out and forces you to have those conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really truly feel like God puts people in your life for a reason, and it was crazy that you had reached out to me like right about the same time when we were talking about starting a podcast. And so I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. And so, yeah, like it, we were talking before, I've got, the first mic that I ever got was from you. We did a trade. I think I sent you an arrow rest, and you sent me the mic and the stand and everything. And I actually don't even use it anymore because I want to be able to use my hands, a little bit more, and have, because with that setup, like I really felt like I had to almost swallow the mic, otherwise I couldn't get in the habit of like swinging my head and all that. So I got the headset that, thanks to, some input from, oh gosh, he's going to be mad at me forgetting his name. Over at the Nomadic Outdoorsman, Dan Matthews.
Yep.
So I talked to him and he was like, oh, I'll get this headset. It's really great. And maybe it's just because, he probably got some kickbacks for me ordering it, off of Amazon through his links, but either way,
it works.
I got to give him a hard time, but yeah, so I guess where I'm going with that is, thank you for, just being there. You've always been there for questions, and again, we're so busy that we don't always have the opportunity to, be in touch a lot. But like when we do, the conversation always goes really well, and it's like, it's just, we pick up right where we left off. So, I appreciate that friendship. And again, this is why we're having this conversation. So, moving on, we always like to talk about like your setup. I see you got one of your bows hanging back there.
Yep.
That looks like an Elite bow. Which model is that?
So this is the Exalt. That was kind of my archery 3D bow this past year and a half. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm a big gear nut. I love, and that's outside of archery, it's everything. Tools, baseball equipment stuff, you name it. I'm just a gear nut, stupid individual. I that's just me to the T, man. So like with that's my Exalt. That is my 3D rig. I also had Elite Verdict. That's what I used last summer, where you helped me out tremendously with some gear just to get me on that track of target archery, basically. And that then just that equipment transferred over to this sucker. So yeah, that is a sweet bow, something that's 60 pounds. And it's that 35-inch axle to axle. For me, for target, I feel like a 34, 35 for my height, my draw length, it seems to just suit me very well. The Verdict is a little bit longer. It was like 38. Shot it very well, but it just was a boat to carry for me. Yeah. But the bow that I absolutely love shooting, it's the one that I'm excited to take again into the woods, which is the Elite Artist. It's hanging up over there, but that one is one of my favorite bows to date. I have all Elite kind of like products on it, except I was able to fit a PX with the eye on that
PXI.
One. Yep. I was able to fit the PXI on that one. So that's my hunting rig. I killed last year my Ohio buck with it. And so that bow holds a little special place in my heart. I don't know. It's a 30-inch axle to axle bow for a hunting bow for me at my height at 5'6" and 5'7" on a good day, 27.5-inch draw length. That bow just, I get pretty good speeds out of it, out of a 460 grain arrow. I just actually chronoed it the other day because I was just wanting to tinker. And I got 270, I think, with it. So still really good speeds out of a 460 grain arrow. But yeah, man, I'm a bow nut through and through. Like I just, I love working on bows. A former student of mine, he has a bear. He just got, I think last year, got him he wants me to tune it, put some strings on it. He wants to order, and all that type of stuff. I was like, Carson, I'll take care of you, man. I'll
Yeah,
hook
man.
you let me know, dude. And I said, he said, what do you want in exchange? I said, you know what I want in exchange? I said, I want you to teach me fly fishing. So then that way I could spend some more stupid money on gear that I probably don't need.
Yeah. And all the high end stuff too,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
you gotta be lightweight, and
Yeah.
that's
But
something
no, dude,
I want
like,
to get into too.
I know. I'm just an awful fisherman, just straight up terrible fisherman. I love going bass fishing, and I used to do really okay doing that. Like I didn't do it competitively or anything like that. I would just go with my dad on the boat and that type of stuff. But man, you get me on a stream, you would think I have no idea what I'm doing. Just no idea.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
The parallels between you and I are wild, because
Yeah.
I'm a self-proclaimed terrible fisherman. So
Yeah.
I do it, but I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. My 11-year-old was like, I want to go fishing. I was like, are you sure? Like, you really, she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, honey. I'm like, we could go. I'm like, just know, I don't know if we'll catch anything. I have no idea what we're doing. So my wife and I, we actually both got our licenses so we could take her, fishing a couple times this summer and everything like that. My dad, we could take her, all that stuff. But yeah, man, it's funny. But that we were just saying on my podcast about the Victor, that's one aspect that I'm really excited about, to finally get my hands on one here in the future, just because what I love about archery, and I said this on your previous episode when we did one last year, the thing about Total Archery Challenge that I love is their expression, life's better with a bow. And man, for me mentally, it's a great escape. We mentioned about these conversation, that is that as well. But man, when I have just even 5 minutes where I'm like, I might feel stressed, my wife just knows if I come up from my basement with a bow in hand, she knows all I need is to send is like a half dozen arrows. And dude, I'm not sending them far. I'm only shooting like 12 yards because of the distance I only have in my yard.
Yeah.
But it's a mental relief for me. So like with that, I'm excited about the Victor because of me tinkering so much and having that Exalt, that 3D bow, but then also having like the Artist and I shot the Artist this past year for Total Archery Challenge, but like that was a different diameter shaft than like my normal hunting arrow. So like the things that attributes that the Victor is going to have, like I said, it's a jack of all trades, and I love that aspect about it. So on paper, and like just hearing you discuss it and everything like that fires me up, because what you said too was bows the last couple of years, the innovation, you can only do so much. Rests there, you could only do so much, but I feel like you guys crushed it with what you've always put out, a solid ass product, to now even bump it up and make it beefier. Like with the things that you've done to it, that excites me as an archer. So I'm pumped for that, man.
Yeah. And thanks for saying that. But for some of our new listeners, I mean, I got to imagine what Jeremy's talking about when he says the Victor, but that is our latest and great Vapor Trail's latest and greatest arrow rest, the Victor. And yeah, so definitely it is a sweet looking piece of gear without a doubt. It not only functions well, but it looks good too. And then I wanted to tell just like a quick side story. You're talking about gear, right? And so I'm the same. I love gear. My wife is like, oh my God, I'm better about it now, but I have a bad habit of buying like these little pieces of gear that like I feel are going to make things more convenient for us. And then they just like sit in a corner, because although they're kind of cool, they don't really attribute to that. But like, so with my daughter right now, and you're probably used to this, like she's almost 5. And so we're brushing teeth and trying to get that kind of figured out. And it's challenging. And we've had a few dental visits that have been a little scary, and so trying to brush a child's teeth and get them clean and prevent cavities is extremely difficult. I'm just like, what the heck? Yep. And so I found this brush, and it's like a little sonic toothbrush, but it's basically like a mouthpiece that they put in, and then they just move it back and forth like this. So it's more thorough, right? And I don't know if it's going to work good or if it's not going to work good, but I will tell you this. She definitely is a gear kid. And my wife said that. She's like, you're just like your dad with the gear, because now she'll brush her teeth 100 times a day.
Yeah.
Just because it's like a gadget.
Yep.
And so I'm like, so yeah, gear, it's passing on to my daughter now. But yeah, I absolutely love it too. Like, I've got all kinds of gadgets that I'm looking at right now, right here in the room, so I'm with you on that. So you alluded a little bit to the tax.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, you decided to just dive head first into target archery. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what events did you shoot, and how did it work for you? Like, I'm not concerned about how you placed or whatever, right, but just like mentally, how did it feel? And is it something that I know, you probably want to do again, but how does the family dynamic and all of that kind of feed into that?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So like last year when I did it, I wanted to just push myself, and it dates back to me being an athlete or wannabe athlete, whatever. I dabbled in sports growing up and in college and stuff like that. So I always had that competitive edge, and that led to me being a coach for 8+ years in some form of capacity, whether it be middle school football, varsity baseball as our head coach for a couple years. And then I gave that up, and it was, there was like some burning desire missing. Like, I just felt I didn't miss coaching. I missed the connections and like that stuff, obviously, like with the players and everything. But like, as far as the actual job of coaching, I did not miss that, but I did miss that competitive there's a competition, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to do that in the archery world. Like, I knew, like, I was a hunter through and through, and I just loved shooting my bow, but it was always like the back in my mind, like, you're not good enough. You can't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was just something that just that little person on my shoulder that was just like, dude, there's so many better. And I was like, you know what? Who cares? Why don't we just do it? And I was, kind of with doing the podcast now for so many years, I was blessed with a great opportunity where I bought an elite target bow, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, I need help with other things like with it. Mm-hmm. And you came to the rescue, man, through and through. So I can't thank you enough, because you're really what helped push me over the edge to actually do this. And I signed up for local ASA events. So my goal in the future, and I'll just kind of get this out of the way, is to just go to one of those national ones, just to go and experience it. But my goal for last year, the first one, was go to as many Pennsylvania ASA events I can, and then other local shoots that are around that are maybe a little bit more competitive, and not just your, hey, come spend $10, like one that you have to enter and they're keeping track of score and giving out a trophy.
Right.
So that was kind of like my goal, and my goal was to do at least 5. And I ended up attending 5. My first one went a lot better than I expected. And it was I did the new class for the ASA, which was the Hunter 45. So you're able to move your dial. It wasn't a fixed pin. And obviously your distance is 45 and under, which is still like, not using a lens. You're still using bow hunter rules, right? So your stabilizer can't be past that 12 inches or whatever it be. And so I really wanted to just get that desire of competition again. And I wanted to then translate that into continue to be confident in the woods. And I know a lot of people mention that, and I've heard professionals that are professional archers say, hey, like, I mainly got into it because I wanted to be a better bow hunter, and I was just a really good shot, and it just, snowballed from there. And because what ended up happening, Ricky, was years prior to that, man, like, I missed some pretty good bucks, and it hurt. And that was like, so it was kind of like, to me, it was a win-win situation. Like, if I enter this, it's going to hopefully make me a better archer. It's going to make me a better shot when crunch time hits, and it's going to relieve that burning desire to get that competition in. And it did. It hit all 3 check marks. So it really forced me to slow down in the shot process of things and like be consistent with the shot process. And last year went really well. I had my first good tournament. I placed in that division, in that category. The next shoot was another. It's called the RBD, and that one was a fixed pin. So I had to like swap out my pin scope on my scope on that one, and had to use the 3-pin, which I haven't used since I was like 13. And did not have a good day. So it was funny because we joked because it's RBD, it's after the guy's initials, and I was like, we got off the range and I just shot terrible. I just did not have a good up and down, and I just too many bad shots. And I remember getting off and he was right there, and I was like, RBD, huh? Really bad day. And he just chuckled, and it was just a rough day. And it was like, dude, that's archery. Like that was like one of those, like thinking back to baseball days, like that was my 0 for 4 with like 3 strikeouts and like a pop up to the catcher type day at the plate. You know what I mean? Like it was just that day. And
so is it known yardage on these, or okay?
Yep. So the RBD is actually a phenomenal. It's like New York and Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I think there's 30 targets, if I remember correctly, and like half are Delta, so your ASA, and then the other half are Reinhardt, so like you're doing the IBO stuff, scoring on that one. Or not IBO, but like just using the 12 ring on for that. And so every other target is that. It's a Reinhardt Delta, and it's awesome. And it's, as far as the Northeast goes, man, I don't know of another archery tournament that's paying more money for how many flights they do. It's really great. Like Brady Myers does it and all that type of stuff. But yeah, so that got my tail kicked there. And this year, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that one. The weekends that they held it, I had some family commitments already to that. And I was like, dang, I'm missing 2 of the 3. Like, I don't want to just do the one. So that kind of sucked. But anyway, going back to last year. So I ended up competing in those, did the ASA ones. I qualified for the PA state one, which I don't think it's that hard. I think if you shoot like I don't even know what the number is. But I was like, man, that's awesome. Like I qualified for that. Like, again, whether it'd be easy to do that or not, it was like an accomplishment. And that bled into like the fall. I did another local one for a tournament, which like went really well as well. And man, that rolled into hunting season. And I just never felt more confident with a bow in my hand stepping into the timber than I did this past year.
Yeah.
And it solidified, like, dude, you made the right decision. And then going back to the gear, man, like that's like for a gear junkie, like that's a whole new ball game. Like there's target sights, there's target rest, there's just stabilize, there's just so many ways you could rig out now a target bow setup. But now this year, the Pennsylvania did again what I competed in last year. They called it the Clash for Cash, and it was 3 events. And in order to be up for all 3 events, or like for the main running for that, you have to pay for all 3. So I did. I was like, yep, I'm doing it. Here we go. And when I put them on the calendar, we were like, okay. And then again, family stuff happens. And the first one, it was a complete washout. And like we drove to my sister's because we had a family member, a good friend birthday party that weekend, like that day. And we're like, okay, I'll go shoot and maybe have enough time to get back. And when we got down there, it was like insane monsoon, like thunder, lightning. And I was like looking at him like, I'm going to have to drive a little over an hour, like west from where my sister lives, then come back. And then we're going to have to go towards like Philly area. And I was like, if it gets delayed, we might be running a little bit later. And I was like, you know what? I can miss one. I was like, we had to be here anyway for this birthday party. We'll skip that one. Well, then the second one comes and same thing happened. Like another family event ended up being scheduled with my family. And then it just turned into like, we'll call it a wash this year. So I donated a nice $100 to the ASA local PA chapter for that. But I don't look at it as like a failure because I didn't show type of ordeal. I just was like, hey man, like my daughter's 1.5 now. My other daughter's 11. I'm still shooting my bow daily. It was just like, all right, we'll do total archery challenge with my buddies and we'll do other local shoots when they pop up. Like there's one this Sunday that I'm going to do. Like I'll keep track of score for myself. I'm going to take the hunting rig. I'm not even going to take the 3D setup one. I want to take the artist with me. So I'm still doing that. It's just not that competitive nature what it was last summer, but my wife, she already knows next year I'm doing it. So rain, shine, parties or not, she knows I got the green light and she appreciated it. And that's honestly, man, that's I'd rather her be okay with me missing those than, because that gives me the green light when it's like, hey, next weekend looks phenomenal. I'm going to go out hunting or whatever it be. I'd rather get that okay than like, oh yeah, it's a May whatever, I'm going to go in for a archery 3D shoot. So yeah, cool. I hear that, and good for you, and props to you for putting your family first. I mean, I know I've got some buddies that would have probably turned that into a big battle, and I'm just like, man, I don't know if that's worth it. But and again, what's more important, is that you were there for your family and everything like that. And so good for you. And as far as you were talking a little bit about, archery and what it does for you mentally and everything. And there's not a lot for me. Like, I guess, maybe sitting down watching a movie or something like that, unless you got something weighing heavy on you. Archery, just the focus when you're at full draw and you're just lining everything up, and it's just that everything, all the noise stops. Like, it's just, and especially like, if you can be, the tacks and stuff, like being outside, I absolutely love that. Like going for a hike with my bow is the way I look at it. Foam is home, and even if you miss, I mean, me and my buddy Rick talk about this on the Don't Die Rusty podcast all the time, is it's the misses that you remember. Right? Like it's, when you hear that arrow smash a rock and explode and everybody cheers and you know what I mean? That's what it's about for me, Yeah. And, sure, you hit a 12 ring and it's like, great shot, man. And then you go up and you pull your arrow. And I don't mean to like downplay that, but there's just something about, just going out and having fun with it. And that's part of the reason why I've really struggled with like really getting into the competitive nature of it. I've had a lot of people say, dude, you really should, you'd probably be good at it. It'll make you a better hunter and all that. And I'm sure that it will. I just don't have the patience to shoot at X's and spots, and at, at the same distance and stuff. And I guess maybe I don't have the discipline. I don't know. I shouldn't say that, but either way, I just want to say, good for you for, setting those goals and, doing everything that you can. And it would be silly for you to be like, well, I hit my goal, but I missed out on all this family stuff. Like that doesn't make sense to me. And just knowing who you are. Yeah. It's also like you brought up a good point talking about the tack thing, because my biggest fear getting into the competitive side was that like I was going to run across, like, excuse my language, but like an asshole. Like that was always like, because I would talk to my buddy Jim, like my best friend who helps me with Antler Up and everything like that. And because he would compete, he's a great shot, and he would win some of those local like Allentown, PA ones and everything like that, a couple of those. And he'd be like, yeah, man, like some guys are going to be like very cutthroat. And I was like, oh, okay. And like me, like I said, I'm a people person. I'm a teacher. Like, I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I don't know. So I was very fortunate where the first one last year, the group I was with were just amazing dudes. And actually all of them that I shot they're all great guys. But like there was a couple, like one of them I could see where there were two other dudes where, they're a little more I don't want to say more competitive, but they had that like edge to them a little bit. And I was like, okay, I see you. You know what I mean? Like that was that guy that would be chirping over on that other dugout for me. And it would be like, okay, here we go. And But for the most part, man, it was definitely really great. But then like you have the total archery challenge. Like we shot the PA one this past year for the first time in like 3 years. We didn't shoot it for the last couple of, so this was our first time going back in a couple of years, and we enjoyed it. And I've had a chance to really bust on my best friend's chops for the last 2 summers, because we've done, it was a different shoot. It was at Montage Mountain. They didn't put that one on this year. They held it at a different facility, but last year we shot 2 courses, and we do like a closest to the center ring, basically, of like you keep tabs on who won that target, and whoever has the most target wins. And last year the 2 I won, and this year we shot 2 and I won both of those again this year. So I keep busting them chops. I'm like, guys, I need some competition. You know what I mean? Like we need somebody else. I need somebody to push me here. You know, I start ripping on them, and they're really good shots. But it's funny though, because when you're saying about like the 12 rings, you know, like even though they're my best friends, they're still competitive. They still put a lot of time in shooting. It's not like they're just grabbing it a week before tag. Like they're still shooting as much as I do, if not more. And it's funny to see, because then you're like a sense of like, I felt bad on the second course, like a little bit at one point, because I shot, I get up to the target, and we shot the RMEF course, which is all the elk, you know, and they're big 12 rings. So I'm like, this is easy. And there was one, it was like a straight on shot, and there was and this is what taught me in the competitive side, was there was above the 12 ring, there was like a roughed up piece of foam, and it was like a black hole basically. And I was like, just aim for that. You hit that, dude, you're inside out of it. And the shot it was like a 56-yard shot. And Ricky, I draw back, I settle the pin, and I just go through my process. And my process is actually kind of quick. And like the longer I hold, the worse it is. Yeah. So like I wouldn't say it's target panic, but it's like I get settled, and I walk through. I'm like acquire and bubble, aim, and I just pull. And it goes off, and they just bust my chops, because they're like, you pull up, you hold for like 6 seconds, and then it's like you're 12 rings every time. Well, this shot, I draw back, I settle, I aim for that spot, and I shoot, and I just see the arrow going like dead nuts. And I did like a walk off. Like I don't even watch it hit. I just kind of like walk away, and I hit it. And like they had some remark to say something again, and you could tell they were getting frustrated and putting pressure on themselves to like try to outshoot me. And I was just like, I kind of feel bad a little bit. Like I don't know. It was just, it was a weird feeling, but like fun. Cause I was just like, why are you guys even trying? Like, so then I started giving banter back to them, and it was a good time. Like you said though, but like you remember those misses. Like there was one where, it was like that 1/3 elk, like the mini elk from Reinhardt. And it was a downhill shot, and I set it off, and I went over its back. And like my friend, like that course we did teams, so like whoever, we kind of did it like golf. And well, my teammate, he shot, and he just absolutely pinwheeled it, and I was like so ecstatic. But I'm like, dang, I remember they're like, that was my first arrow out of 2 courses that I sent one. I was up to that, I was using the same arrow all day, because they're like, geez, you just had to bring 1 arrow today, blah 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 blah. It's like, but like you said though, it's the banter, those fun things are what you live for with that.
And I don't know, I have to have, again, like when I shoot in my backyard or whatever, it's very calm, and it turns everything off. And then, but when we're at TAC too, like we try to be somewhat selective with the people that we shoot with too, just because we mess with each other, you know what I mean? Like when someone's at full draw, you got the camera in your face, you know what I mean? Or we're, you know what I mean? Like I'm cool with people talking, you know, whatever, again, because like I don't even hear it. Whatever conversation you were having over there while I'm at full draw, I tuned you out. I have no idea what you were doing anyways. And I suppose if I was in a more serious target type situation, I would want that silence. And most of the time people are respectful too, you know, like people quiet down and pay attention and watch for your arrow, so they can kind of tell you what's going on. But still, for me, it's just about having fun. I don't want it to be too serious. And there are those moments where where you are a little bit serious, but I just feel like I have a lot more fun when you can just be loose and not have to worry if you explode an arrow and, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of the misses, and I probably told this story 100 times, but before TAC was TAC and it was bowcast at the Bird at Snowbird in Utah, we attended that shoot several times. And one year they had this target, and it was a bedded ram, and it was like straight up. And I don't know if it was like thermals or just the way that the wind was kind of going up the valley, but everybody would range it, and everybody that shot for the range that they would range it at would shoot over it. Your arrow would fall short. And there was a slab, like a rock slab like this, at an angle right in front of it. And so your arrow would hit that, and it would skip, and it would shoot straight up into the air. And I don't even want to say how far, but you would lose sight of it. And then the wind would push it, and it would land like 200 yards away. And we saw shooter after shooter after shooter doing that, and we just sat there and watched it in just amazement. It was unreal, to the point where almost like we were kind of getting worried it'd be a safety hazard, because like people were walking the mountain, and you're like, ooh, that arrow's getting pretty close, But again, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that shot. We talk about that one all the time. But in any case, we'll move on. So, but awesome with the target stuff. Way to go, diving into that, And again, for me, like I have to do that stuff to force me to get out to shoot. Otherwise, I won't do it. And then pretty soon, here you are. I can 100% attribute all of my misses to not practicing enough. 100%. Mm-hmm. So, real quick, and I just want to get a little bit of information about like what's coming up. Like what do you got going on for the season? Any fun tags that you drew, or any fun shoots coming up?
Yeah, dude. So I kept things pretty basic as far as like shoots go. There's I think there's R100 in September just outside of Pittsburgh. I finally want to do one of those. I haven't had the chance to do one in quite some time, so I'm really ecstatic to do one of those. And then just local things. There was a local club about within an hour of my house that they did a bow hunter season, like get ready for the season type of shoot last year, which I plan on doing again this year. And then as far as hunting goes, man, I kept things really basic this year. I'm doing the state of Pennsylvania, and then I'll do Ohio with my one really good friend, Albert. And honestly, after that, if something comes up, I might try to do it. I didn't put in for anything major for tag wise. I just, with the baby, right now it was kind of tough. I'm waiting to draw. I think next year, me and a couple of my buddies, I think we're finally going to put in to draw Iowa. I think that's going to be the big one for next year. Yeah. I saw a bunch of people this year that through social media that I follow pulled their Iowa tag. So good luck to those guys. But yeah, my goal is to, like, looking ahead past the season, like go out to Iowa, scout it, take a trip out there with like my two other buddies that can pull that. Maybe do it again one other time if we can, and then hopefully pull it, because that's for me, I know it seems like whatever, but like that's like a bucket list. You know what I mean? That's I want to go out to Iowa, and I want to put a lot of time in there that I can. It's tough being a teacher. But this year we're going to put a lot of time in here at Pennsylvania with, we have me and my buddies who I shot tack with. We have a camp now where we hunted last year for the first time. When we hunted it, there's a house on property, and it's in my buddy's, it's his house, but we have just shy of, I want to say just shy of like 350 acres, and it's all big woods, just mountain terrain. And so we're like, let's have fun. Let's have at it. So the first time we stepped on property was day one of hunting. So we had no idea. It was like e-scout and go to a spot. Maybe we get lucky. Yeah. Cool. And we saw a ton of deer. That's where I shot my buck and rifle this past year. And my one other buddy did as well, which is kind of cool. So we had 2 bucks taken as far as like within our group from the property. And So we're anxious to now put in work as far as like postseason scouting, putting cameras out, getting like checking where scrapes were and doing all that fun work. So I have that, and then obviously hunting with my dad. The last 2 years, Ricky, I've hunted Ohio with my buddy Albert that I mentioned, but we've gone when it's usually like perfect where I hunt with my dad. And like I'd be in Ohio, my dad would call me or message me. And he's like, "Bucks are everywhere. This is unbelievable. Like this rut is amazing." And like my first year in Ohio, it was tough. Like I got my tail licked and or tail kicked, and it was tough, man. And I was like, "Dang, I missed it." And the next year, I had like last year, I was like redemption, and I shot a nice buck in Ohio last year, and I was so grateful and had a great memories with Albert and his family and stuff. And so now this year he has a new child coming, and it's like during that time frame when we would usually go. So we're either going to go like a week prior or like a week after we normally go to Ohio. Okay. So I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, we'll be hunting a rut together this year." So I'm kind of fired up for that because there's some good bucks running around, and that hopefully one of us could get an opportunity at that. You know, hopefully they survive, but like there's usually a couple good deer up on that property. So that's it, man. Kind of keeping things basic and simple and just being close by so that if the family needs me, I'm here. Cause last year, man, I did the Ohio, I did Pennsylvania, and we did a lease up in New York, and I was only able to get up there like once or twice. And it was just of like, it's kind of tough to do that. So we're like, you know what? We have our camp property now. I still have the property where I hunt with my dad. Let's do that.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, dude, that's awesome. Good luck with all of that. You know, keep in touch. I know you will. Let me know what's going on. If you need anything, holler at me. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome couple of hours here on a Wednesday. So greatly appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your friendship. Props to you for being an awesome dad and for, you know, being a teacher and, you know, fostering the next generation of humans. And, you know, so thanks so much for everything that you do. Really appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much.
Well, folks, you can find the video version of this episode on the Vapor Trail YouTube channel, so make sure you head on over, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. And, of course, if you're listening, give us a rating and a review. Only 5 stars will do. And with that, Jeremy and I are going to pack up our bows and arrows, and we're hitting the range. Have a great day, everybody. Vapor Trail is now offering an exclusive discount to the Range Podcast listeners. Enter promo code TRP15, that's TRP15, at checkout for 15% off VTX bowstrings and Vapor Trail and Stokerized branded t-shirts, hats, and other gear.